Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. I hope you're all doing well and that your week has been going well thus far, and I hope you're going to have an amazing weekend as well. So in this week's video, I wanted to open up and share about my story, my personal journey with my eating disorder, which was anorexia nervosa. And throughout this video, in the beginning, I'm going to share with you my personal background and my story, my upbringing, just to give you a little bit of a broader and clear vision of why all of this happened with the story of my eating disorder. And by the end of this video, I will also bring out my personal tips and tricks and advice for anyone who's watching this and who maybe has dealt with an eating disorder, still battling this internal demon, even if you're past recovery, like physically and on like a biological level, but maybe mentally it's a little bit more challenging for you to keep up with this recovery process. So, I'm not claiming that I have everything figured out within this, personal challenge. I still have these, thoughts and feelings of unworthiness and, feeling unsure of myself with my body, with my mind and my life and all that stuff. Like anyone, but I think it's a very normal and human experience and process to navigate. And there's nothing wrong with us, with you or me, for having to manage those thoughts and emotions. And, we're just trying to do the best that we can. So by the end of this video, I hope this will be very insightful and helpful to you. And so, yeah, let's get started. So I don't want to, bore you with my everything that has happened to me, but I'll try to make it as quick and short and easy to digest like as possible. But so my parents both had their personal issues and struggles. My father on the family side of on my father's side, there was a lot of issues with drug, alcohol, substances, and, living the kind of rock and roll lifestyle. Both my parents are born in the 60s, and they had me quite late, past their mid 30s. And on my mother's side, most of the issues, quote unquote issues, were more on the mental health aspect. So my mother actually, she has dealt with an eating disorder as well, anorexia, and so as one of my aunts, and one of their cousins, which would be my little cousin, if I'm not mistaken. She actually passed away from an eating disorder, which I think it was also anorexia. So I'm not sure if it's a family thing, if it's a family kind of, mental health, like passed down, or biological, really kind of on a biological structural way, if it's kind of, being passed down or whatever. I can't really find the word. Sorry for, the lack of better words or right terminologies, but that's it. So, I just want to point out that I love my parents. I know they have done the best that they could do, and what's the point of blaming them and complaining? I mean, what has been done, and I wouldn't be the person that I am today if it wouldn't be from the way that they have raised me and my sisters. I have two sisters, one who is older than me, 8 years of an age gap, and she's actually kind of on a biological and lawful statement, she's my stepsister, but we don't consider each other as stepsisters. We're just sisters because we've grown very close to each other. And I have a younger sister who's 2.5 years younger than me. So, you know, my upbringing was quite difficult for mostly my mother, but also my father. We grew up in a religious household, and on Christian, just to be a little bit more precise. And but life was really a struggle. We had to move out a couple times. My father kind of starting a job, quitting a job, not working, indulging in alcohol and drugs, being active within the religion and being, retiring himself from the religion and living a completely 180 different lifestyle. And my mother having to, being mostly the hard worker and the breadwinner within the family, so she could feed and take care of the kids and clean the house and work. And my mother, she's self-employed still to this day. She's been self-employed for the past over 40 years approximately. So that's it, bringing kids to work with her, and bringing them to church. Well, not church, but to the religious meetings and whatnot, and preaching from door to door. And it was very challenging for her, and she did the best that she could with me and my sisters, but a lot of personal internal issues were being created by the lack of ownership and responsibility and maturity from my father. So, that's it. We even, at some point we were homeless. Basically, we were, sleeping at, family friends, like houses, and, living on like a rooftop of a garage or something. And, having to do our personal hygiene stuff, like outside, and taking a bucket and doing what we had to do in a bucket and throwing it outside and things like that. So, having no cleaning machine, and, for cleaning the clothes and all that. And that's it. So it was pretty difficult. But of course, when you're a child, when you're a baby, you're not really aware of it. So a lot of things are stuck in my subconscious mind, in my subconscious memory. A lot of my personal struggles are stuck in there, and I haven't pursued a therapy session with a professional. I did when I was a child, but when I grew older, I didn't pursue any of that stuff. So anyways, all that to say that I still have a lot of work and things to untangle and figure out. So, but yeah, fast forward, school, it was a real struggle. I remember I was actually very excited to start, going to school and making new friends, and, being the kind of, grown up little girl. And, growing up, when I was a child, I was very, I was looking forward to being an adult, because I felt like everything that negative that was happening to me was not because of it was not because of like the lack of control, or how can I put this like into clear words? Okay. The reason why I wanted to grow up as a child and looking forward to being a grown up was because I felt like all the negative things that were happening to me were not because of the lack of initiation from my part, but more so the lack of good decision making on my parents' end. And, I felt like everything that is happening to me, like negatively speaking, is being brought upon me because my parents are not making the right decisions. So, and in order for me to feel good and secure and happy about my life, I have to be the one in control of what is happening. If I want to like make something good happen for myself, then I have to make it happen for myself, because I'm relying on my parents to make things work out well for me, but it's not happening. So this was the reason why I know that this was the reason why that I wanted to grow up so quickly. So that's it. And that was just like a quick self note and thing that I wanted to bring out, something that has hit my spirit and I wanted to share with you. But that's it. So fast forward, that's it. I was 5 years old. I was just beginning school, and I was really looking forward to embarking on this new adventure and journey again, and being this grown-up little girl and being a little bit more disciplined and, responsible, and yeah, like just overall disciplined again and responsible. So, but this didn't work out well for me at all. I stumbled, unfortunately, upon a very rotten apple. My teacher was not a good person. This man was not a good human being in general, I believe, because I ended up having a very mean and physically abusive kindergarten teacher. So for a whole year, like a school year, it was a total mess and disaster. I would wake up in the morning and I would beg my mother and I would cry. I would beg her, please, Mom, don't make me go to school. I don't want to go to school, because this man, he was physically not only abusing me, but all the other kids. So, and by physically abusive, I mean like being harmful, and harsh. He would, physically attack us. He would kick us in the butt and, grab us very harshly by the arm and scream at us and always tell us how bad we were at things, and how non-competent that we were, performatively speaking, on, doing things. And he had this weird like tactic of putting his fingers like this and hitting us like under our chin and like really harshly, just to tell us like, you're stupid, like what are you doing, like, and he would hit us like under our chin with his hand, and he would always like put us down and remind us how bad we were. And like, I just don't understand, like, anyways, I'm not gonna run like a whole tantrum on this, but with that being said, my mother, she tried to get me out of the school and to switch up like the teacher and talk with the principal of the school and all that. But, she didn't help us at all. She was more concerned about the teacher's mental health than, the children's well-being, like physically and mentally and emotionally and all that. So unfortunately, my mother, she made the decision to let me there, like at the school, for the remaining of the year. And every day, that's it. Every morning I'd wake up, I would cry, and I would beg my mother to not let me go to school. And when I would come back from school, I would again come back home crying and be very miserable. But fun story about all this. So like I mentioned, I have an older sister who's 8 years older than me. So she was like, in her early teenage years, and she was kind of my older sister. She's kind of the rebel of all three of us. And, she's the kind of black sheep of the family, which is, to my eyes, like not a bad thing. And one day, I still remember this day because I was so happy to see my older sister in my classroom. So she went up to, she came up in my classroom with her friends who were kind of like, gang members-ish, playing the tough guys and being the kind of troublemakers. And they literally all came up to my teacher and kind of, gave a friendly reminder, just a friendly, like, note of leaving me alone and just being nice with all the children. And when they came out, they went to his car and they completely crashed his tires and, made a few other things, which I will not mention in this video. But it was a way for like her to show me, like, I care about my little sister, and you better watch out. So that was kind of a fun, like, it's kind of comforting thing for me to know and to have witnessed, and that she was having my back, and she was kind of taking care of me from kind of far away, if that makes sense. So that's it. So I didn't start off with the right tools in my toolkit, and the following year, for my first year in grade 1, I was changed school, and I was changed to an English school because my first school, for kindergarten, it was a French school. So in kindergarten, I was brought up to an English school, and because my father went to an English school when he was younger, and that gave me the kind of the free pass of being able to go to an English school. And well, that's how it works here in Canada. So yeah, and I was only speaking French. I didn't know anything about English, really, only maybe except for music, but I didn't really understand like what the lyrics were actually, what singers were actually saying and the meaning behind the lyrics and all that stuff. So yeah, it was a very kind of challenging learning process, having to learn a different language and, being the kind of weird kid, French kid in the classroom who had an accent, who can, understand what people were saying, and, having a hard time just overall communicating, obviously. And, I was kind of the weird kid growing up in school, not only because of my communication skills, but also just because how my brain works and my overall personality. And yeah, I mean, the way that my parents raised me was kind of really messy, in my opinion. Um, my father, just to give you kind of a quick example, my father, he was still talking to me like as a baby, like goo goo gaga, like that kind of language. That's how he would communicate with me. And I was like 3, 4 years old, and I wasn't able to really speak. And my mother, she was reminding my father, like, just, talk to her like correctly, like as a normal human being, because she's not gonna be able to communicate like effectively and efficiently with other people, and she's not gonna understand like what other people are saying, like stop, she's growing up, like stop talking to her like a baby. But unfortunately, my father didn't follow my mother's advice and people's advice, and yeah, he just kept doing what he wanted to do with me and all that stuff. So, and that's it. So I was having a hard time making friends and fitting in, and I was oftenly like rejected and even bullied. And I just hated school because it was so boring. I was always kind of, that's it, like a creative person, and the way that I had to learn things, it had to be like stimulating and fun to learn. But going to school, nothing was fun and stimulating. Nothing was, none of that. And anyway, so by the age of like 4 or 5, also my parents divorced, and I was separated from my father. And it was like a huge shock for me emotionally, because my father, like I said, I love him to death. But my father, that's it. He was my superhero. I felt so loved and so cherished from his presence, and I felt like he was really there for me, and I felt deeply loved, and I was receiving all the attention that I wanted and that I needed from my father. But this came with big consequences, because my father was actually playing the role of the mother figure, being very nourishing and very, present with his children. And my mother, she had to compensate for his lack of accountability. And my mother became extremely masculine. She had to be the breadwinner and the provider within the family. And, my mother, she was more of like the harsher figure, male figure, the father figure of the family. And, I didn't feel loved, or I didn't feel like the mother, like, nourishing effect from her. And I think that's one of the reasons why I believe I'm, I wouldn't be a good mother, and that I don't want any children, because I'm not nourishing, like, as, like, I wouldn't be nourishing as a mother figure, anyways, so I'm digressing right now. So that's it. Going back to all of this. So I was separated from my father, and it was a big shock for me. And this consumed me on an emotional and mental level that is so deep that I cannot really, explain fully. Because when I was at school, I was only thinking about my father. Like, when is my father gonna pick me up? When am I going to see my father again? Because my father was the source of love and comfort and joy in my life. And my mother, she wasn't, unfortunately. And, she had to deal with her own issues and demons from her personal background and family upbringing and all that. And unfortunately, I didn't feel love from my mother, and I had to live with her. So, things were very difficult at home. Family dynamic, communication, energy, and all that stuff. And I felt very trapped and unhappy with my life at a very young age, at school, home, again. And the only thing and activity and things that brought me joy and happiness and love was by being close to my father. And this consumed all of my energy and all of my focus at school, and it caused me to be very underperforming at school with grades and all that. And yeah, at some point, when I was in grade 4, I don't think I'm going to open up right now about this whole story because it's a whole like different drama series in there. So, but long story short, I moved from my mother's house and to my father's place, and things were emotionally like a whole lot better because again, I was with my father and I felt like I was safer, if that makes sense. And that's it. So I lived with my father from the age of like 8 till 11. And, you know, in between like that stage, my father actually married another woman. And I had a new stepsister, and we moved to a very country remote place in Canada. So I switched back from English school, like another English school, to a French school. So a lot of like bouncing like back and forth, English, French, English, French. And things were also kind of difficult because, you know, my father was like my superhero. So having him back then, like I felt like he was being like stolen from me, or like if that makes sense. And so anyways, but things were started to get difficult again within their marriage and with my ex stepsister, because they're not married anymore. They divorced 3 or 5 years after they got married. And so like there was a lot of like that's issues within the family dynamic and their relationship, and you know, fights and issues with my ex stepsister, and you know, things were just not going well again because of my father and all that. So I realized that, you know, my father was not very the hero that I pictured him when I was a child. So I went back to my mother's house and my mother's place, and I went back to my other elementary school. And by that time, I was in grade 5 or 6, and so that's it. I had to kind of start again from scratch and pick things up from where I left them off. And yeah, but things were a lot more like smoother and easier. And then I started high school. So again, I grew up as being the shy kid and being the rejected one. So I felt like I had to make myself like small and digestible so people could accept me and yeah, just include me within their circle of friends, if that makes sense. So I started high school, and and that's it, like going through puberty and bodily changes and whatnot. I started to, you know, see my body change, and there was a lot of things like happening, like with my father's like marriage and second divorce, and a lot of things were kind of roaming inside my head, and a lot of internal thoughts of, this is my fault, everything is changing, and, nothing is stable. Whenever like something positive is happening, then something negative comes up, and I feel like I there's no control. I can't control the future, and I felt very powerless and hopeless. But I started to put my focus and energy towards nourishing myself, like within the family religion. So I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, just to make things a little bit more clear and understandable. So I started to pour more of my energy and time within, this world. And I started to nourish my personal relationship with God, and, educating myself again on a spiritual level. And I was having, I did have a couple of like new mother figures, spiritual teachers within this community. And this is how, like, from the age of like 13-ish till this day, I'm now 26. I started to, that's it, kind of focus on developing myself, like, as a human being, the quality of my human character. And there's a lot of things that kind of clicked, and things that I felt like were not resonating with me anymore, within, within the circle of friends that I've made, or, the people that I was surrounding myself with, and a lot of like questions about life, and, the purpose of why we're here, and all that jazz. So I started to kind of, I really did grow up. Like, I grew up and I matured at a very early stage. And I started to, that's it, kind of weed out what was good, what was bad, like within my life, and started to make a cleanup. And again, like, when I was always looking forward to growing up, and because growing up meant being more in control of the outcomes that I would be living in consequence. And, I felt like every time I would be in control and do things, and be more initiative within my personal life, then things started to get better. And, I was kind of caught up in this spiral of control, and more control meant more power and better outcomes. More control meant like security and peace and joy. But that's it. So, but when you're growing up, I've always been, like I mentioned in the past episodes, I was always like into fashion, creativity, writing, storytelling, reading books, music, dancing, sculpting, anything that is crafty, artsy. That was me. People recognized me as the artist, as the very creative and talented person. This was my kind of personal etiquette or branding, if that makes sense. But that's it. I was very, very fond of fashion and designing clothes, and, expressing yourself, showcasing yourself, verbalizing like your overall personality through clothes and fashion. This really resonated with me, and I started to, I was consumed by the world of fashion, and the world of beauty, feminine beauty and branding and things like that. And, by that time it was 2013. I was 14 years old. And I stumbled, like, the rise of social media started to rise up and be more and more prominent within, my generation. And I started to, I've watched the Victoria's Secret fashion shows and reading magazines, the Vogue magazines, Elle magazines, Harper's Bazaar, and things like that. And, with the access of social media, with, computers, and also like iPods, and the start of like iPhones and things like that, I started to really pour more of my energy and time and into these hobbies and, this overall like world and these universes. So I was heavily influenced by fashion and beauty standards and things like that. And when you're a teenager, your body is changing, the brain chemistry is changing, very much for a girl, like at an early stage. So, and I was having a hard time to cope with my bodily changes, with everything that I was seeing. The mesmerizing beauty of women, the supermodels and things like that. And I was like, it really kind of connected with me, like back then. And even kind of till this day, I still have, secretly, I have this kind of dream of becoming like, having this goal achieved of being in the world of fashion and, modeling. And, that was something that deeply, again, resonated with me back then. I was like, I'm going to become a model. And like, this is what I want to do. I want to be a model because I want to be as beautiful and as inspiring as, these women. So, but yeah, and then I started to kind of be more self-aware and conscious about my body, everything that I was eating and all that. And my mother, by the way, like quick side note, she's vegetarian. She's been vegetarian for, again, like a very long time, 40 plus years. So health and, wellness and things like that has always been kind of a part of, my background, my upbringing. But, I was, when you're a kid, you don't really care. I was not focused, or I was not thinking about food or, health, unhealthy stuff. Like, I was not thinking about this like at all. I was just eating whatever I want, and I stayed like pretty slim, like very, very slim when I was a kid, when I was a child. But when you're entering teenagehood and becoming, when you're entering puberty and all that, your body changes, and your hormones go up and down, and all that jazz. So I started to, again, become more self-aware and conscious about everything that I was eating, and, being fit, and jogging, and being active, watching out, like, the diet trends and all that. And that's it. So at some point, there was a lot of things like happening within my, family life, with my father especially, second divorce, being homeless again. Like for him, I was not homeless, but my father, he became homeless again. And with family, friends, and circle of friends, and the people that I was surrounding myself with, friends, like kind of focusing more on other friends, and feeling kind of a little bit more left out, and because I was, again, more of the shy, like reserved person, so I was kind of the one following the flow of how everything was happening. And anyways, so I was feeling very kind of disappointed within my circle of friends, and everything was just overall like underwhelming, and I didn't feel respected back then, and I didn't feel heard and seen. So I remember I gave myself like this mental like commitment. Okay, like no more BS. I'm cleaning things out. I'm tired of it, and I want to feel good. I want to feel well, basically, and happy. So I was like maybe 14, 15, and I started to kind of completely kick out the people in my life that didn't respect me or value me as a person and as a friend. And I started to really isolate myself from the world, and I started to really internalize my overall energy and my overall presence. And that's it. So I started to, I wanted to make my life better. I started to focus more on religion and spirituality, my spiritual health, my personal internal development, being more disciplined and mature, and being a grown up, basically, even at the age of 15, 15, 16. And I was, again, focusing on being healthy and taking care of myself, basically. And by that time, so starting, it was 2014 or 15. No, it was in April or May of 2015. I stumbled upon this trend on YouTube, which was veganism. And I was intrigued by it. I didn't understand what it was. So anyways, long story short, I became vegan because of health, for the health reasons and health benefits, and everything just made sense for me. And but also for the ecosystem and being of help for the animals and for the planet and all that jazz. So yeah, I became vegan, and back then I was like, this is the best decision I've made for myself in my life. And I became very healthy, but too healthy. I've lost too much weight way too rapidly. I was eating too healthy, basically. Only fruits, vegetables, and I got into this this lifestyle of raw till 4 and fully raw, and and that's it. So I lost my period. I overall lost my joy of life, and I became extremely skinny, like skin and bones. The people around me, my family, and some friends, like family friends, the people who were mentoring me on a spiritual level, like my mother figures, they started to get worried about me, and because I was my energy just changed rapidly. I was extremely cynical, and I was like way too focused on all the bad things that were happening in this world because of the climate change. And I really, 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 really love animals. So seeing all the documentaries from what was happening behind the scenes of farmhouses and slaughterhouses and all that, like, it really traumatized me, like, at a very deep level. So yeah, so I became extremely depressed, cynical, and I was really like the Debbie Downer. Everything, nothing good that is happening is true, and if it is, like, it's not everlasting. It's a fleeting moment. So, might as well not be happy and fulfilled that positive things happen, because it's not going to last. So if it's not going to last, then what's the value in, pouring all of your energy and your time into this positive thing that is happening? Because again, it's not going to last. It's not going to be there forever. So might as well not be happy. That was like my overall mentality and way of thinking. Extremely, like, strict and cathedral and black and white. There was no contrast in my way of thinking and all that. So But again, that's it. So my mental health extremely declined. And, I was having a hard time communicating, and, even till this day, I'm very aware that, the way that I communicate and that my brain functions is not like as efficient as like a regular 26-year-old woman, adult. So again, like I still live with the consequences of those actions from my eating disorder, from anorexia. And that's it. So at some point, I became extremely obsessed with becoming more like losing weight and becoming more and more skinny and lean and all that. So, excuse me. So that's it. So I thought that the only way that I could make it into this life and be successful was to become, make my dreams come true, which was like becoming a model and, becoming a Victoria's Secret supermodel, and being famous and all that stuff. So anyways, that's why I was like so focused on being skinny and, making things happen for myself. But, I always like had this issue with confidence with my outer appearance and my physical, physical beauty, if that makes sense. I grew up with crooked teeth, like really bad crooked teeth. I'll try to insert a picture or show you a picture in the video of like my teeth when I was a child and as years like go on. But right now, like I'm actually fixing my teeth. And that's why I'm actually having a hard time like articulating and communicating, is because I'm actually putting, I have those retainers, and it's so massive in my mouth that like I don't have like a lot of space for for my tongue to really kind of accentuate and articulate properly. But that will be over very soon, because next week you will see me with my brand new smile, fresh, really kind of complete smile, because I actually I have 2 fake teeth with the retainers because there's like a hole there. Anyways, end of quick story here, but that's it. So I grew up with very bad crooked teeth, and kids would make fun of me for having crooked teeth, and that's it. I was having a lot of self-doubt with my dreams of becoming a model and all that stuff because of my crooked teeth, firstly. So, and also because I'm not like super, super tall. I'm 5'6", but, which is very reasonable, but, I was not tall I'm not tall like the supermodels, or even, my older sister, she's 5'9". I was like, when I was younger, I was like, damn it, like, if only I could have your height. If only I could be as tall as you are. Like, I would have probably made it. That was like my mentality back then. And still kind of is, but I'm more at peace, and I'm very happy about my height now. So anyways, all that being said, so I was dealing with a lot of like self-doubt and insecurity about my outer appearance, and at some point it was like I got so down on myself that I stopped smiling. I tried to communicate like as like less often as possible, because I didn't want people to see my bad like crooked teeth, because I was so ashamed, and I was so insecure about this negative like feature of mine. And that's it, because unfortunately my parents, they didn't have the money to fix my teeth, both my sisters as well. So anyways, and that's it. So I was extremely down on myself, and very negative, and I was constantly kind of speaking downly upon myself, reminding myself how bad of a person I was, how how incompetent that I was, how stupid I was, and things like that. Like, and I was punishing myself through working out and being extremely disciplined about my eating patterns and schedule and whatnot. Um, so, anyways, things were very difficult. But at some point, it got so like worrisome and very alarming that my best friend at the time, which was my kind of mother figure, she called the hospital, or she called like a clinic or something, and she scheduled a an appointment for me to meet with a specialist, like eating disorders specialist at a hospital. And so that's it. My parents, my mother, she agreed, and she brought me there, and Lana. And back in my head, I was like, I don't have an eating disorder. I'm just super healthy, and I'm very health conscious, and I'm just trying to be the best version of myself. And I was ironically, I thought if I would have an eating disorder, like I thought to myself, like, if I actually had an eating disorder, I would be actually happy and excited, because it would be like a valuable reason for me to eat junk food and, not be so strict upon myself, which is extremely ironic. And, it just shows how truly sick I was mentally. So anyways, I met with the doctor, and she confirmed with me that, and my family, that I was anorexic, and I was suffering from anorexia nervosa, and I had to do something like as soon as possible, because if I don't like do something, then I would die. And I was like, it was such a shocking like thing for me, and I was like not expecting it at all. And I became extremely afraid because of the lack of control that all of this kind of procedure would mean for me, all the things that would happen for me. So that's it. It was a shocking thing, and I didn't expect it. And at that point, I was really like, I've hit like a level of rock bottom that I didn't think that I could reach. And, I remember I came out of the office, and I just I was holding back the tears and the sobbing. And when I came out, it just came out like completely. And I was crying because of the fear, because of how miserable I felt. And yeah, I mean, that's it. And my mother, she came to me and she hugged me, and she was like, I'm so sorry. Like, that's what she told me. Anyways. So I've hit, like, on a mental health level, I've hit a level of rock bottom that I didn't think was possible for me to reach. And I've hit a very deep level of depression. I've lost even more weight because of the tragic news. These were tragic news for me. So I lost even more weight because of all the anxiety and all that. So I was even less hungry, and I was still working out and all that. Anyway, so it was, I don't know if it was true, like if it would actually like happen, but I had to go see the doctor like once a week. And when I came back to see the doctor, and she saw that I lost weight, the threats for me to be hospitalized were even greater. So anyways, I felt like I was completely hopeless, and I didn't want to be fat. That was like, I was like, if I gain weight, it means like I would be fat. Like, because I thought like back then I was like in my head, I was like already like not as lean, or I was not like, if I was not lean, then I was fat basically. And back then I thought like, I'm not lean enough, so I'm still fat. Like, do you know what I mean? Anyways, so it was like that for, I would say like a couple of months. And it was like the constant kind of appointments at the hospital, talking with, the professional, and, checking in my weight and all that stuff. So I felt extremely like trapped and imprisoned. And the only thing I wanted to do was to pack up my stuff and leave my life behind and start everything from scratch and new, and escape my misery, this cage that I've built on myself. So yeah, but anyways, fast forward, graduating from high school and turning 18 years old. And I was not obligated anymore to go to see my doctor, and I was kind of free finally, and I could go back to my old habits. And just to be clear, like I was not I didn't not like, by that time I didn't really recover physically or mentally at all. I didn't really gain weight. I was not trying to gain weight at all, because I really didn't want to. I was extremely afraid and scared, and I didn't want to feel like as ugly as I was already feeling. So anyways, I stopped at 18 years old. I didn't have to go to the doctors anymore, and I didn't have to, put up with this whole thing. And I felt finally free, and liberated. But a lot of like questions erupt from this new kind of chapter, this, fresh page that has just turned. And I was now like focusing, like a lot of things came to my attention as to like my education and what I wanted to do with my life professionally. And, where I started to really wonder, like, and question myself, well, okay, now that school is done, like, what do I want to do with my life? All the kids and teachers were now like, going through this next stage of figuring out what you want to do with your life, which field of like education or studies you want to pursue. And I didn't know. Like, I was extremely lost, and I was already like focused and caught up with my personal like mental health issues and physical health issues and all that stuff. So I started to like really question my life and question myself, like, okay, make a personal like life audit. Okay, where am I right now, and where do I want to go? It was very stressful for me and caused a lot of anxiety. But by God's help and God's Holy Spirit, everything kind of flowed so well. And at that time, like by that time, I felt very protected, divinely protected and guided. And it was so comforting for me. Like, I felt things were kind of flowing, and I had a spark of hope. And I started to kind of trust life a little bit more and trust myself a little bit more. And I knew that I wanted to, interior design was really calling for me. And, I found this online school, and I applied, and everything worked out, and I found a new job, and, things started to shift like positively in my life, within my external kind of reality. And, my future looked bright and looked hopeful and promising. And I was like, okay, like things work out, like things seems to be working out like so well, but am I going to have like the energy and like the physical, like bodily functions and ability to go on, you know? And I was like, okay, so if I keep on, you know, doing all of this to my body, you know, anorexia, the highly restrictive like diet and all that stuff, like what is going to be the return on investment on this investment, like in the future? Like what are the future like probabilities from all of these decisions? And I realized that if I keep on going, then I'm going to be at the same place, stuck at the same place next year. And for me, like this didn't sit right for me, like personally. So I decided, it was on October or November of 2017, I decided to recover from anorexia. And I found this online coach on Instagram, and this woman, shout out to this girl Audra, Audra. I'm sorry. I'm gonna put her information in the description or whatever. So, and that's it. She helped me to, you know, get this sense of ownership and power back with my health, and to like just face my fears. And within 1 month of being actively recovering from my own initiation, not because of the doctors or the appointments or all that, like from my personal own like initiation and ownership, 1 month in, I got my period back. And by that time, you know, in between all this, like all the efforts, I felt like I was gaining more and more like confidence within myself, and I was getting back my energy, like mentally and physically. And I, not only that, but I felt like my personality was just coming back. You know, I was coming back to myself. I re-became the person that I've always been, if that makes sense, if you know what I mean. And I started to, you know, trust the process to an extent where it felt like so good. I just kept on like pursuing this route. I was like, oh my God, it feels so good. I feel energized. I feel like mentally clear. I want to do like the things that I've always loved, you know, drawing and painting. Like I'm finally finding like back the spark of, and this overall joie de vivre within my life. And, you know, it felt extremely liberating because I was not controlled and held back by fear of certain foods, fear of, you know, the fats. I was extremely afraid of overt fats. I was omitting overt fats like avocados and nuts. And that, again, like I was vegan. When I recovered, I was still vegan, because it was still very important for me, like to recover and stay vegan. So, and it worked out very well, and I was very happy about it. So anyways, all that being said, I was not controlled by fear anymore. And that was the illusion. I thought that I was controlling things, and I was controlling my fear, but it was my fear controlling me. Again, I'll repeat it. I thought that I was controlling fear, but fear was controlling me. So I think that's the overall like truth with eating disorders. You think you're in control and you're controlling your fears, but no, it's an illusion. It's the opposite. It's your fears controlling you. But you are the only person to blame, because you're actually in control of yourself, you know? Everything is boiled down to this fundamental truth that everything that is happening in your life and within yourself or whatever, you are in power. You're in full control. You can shift gears. You can turn around whenever you want. And whether it's about health, mentally, physically, professionally, career, family dynamics, relationships, or whatever, like, you are in control. You think things control you, but no, you're letting this fear of that thing controlling you. Do you know what I mean? Like, so anyways, but yeah, I was vegan for over 10 years. I actually stopped being vegan for almost a year. And yeah, I mean, everything that I learned from recovery and from my overall eating disorder, everything that I've learned, it was the most, like, spiritually and mentally and on soul level, most, like, how can I say this? It was the most, like, worthwhile and character building lesson I have ever gone through in my whole entire life. So yes, my eating disorder, with anorexia, nervosa, has taken me a lot, but it has brought me so much gain and so much more, like, power and self-awareness. And it has really, for me personally, in my eyes, like, it has really shaped me as a person, the person that I am today. And it has really built the essence of my character and my overall personality. So I'm extremely grateful for everything that I've gone through. In hindsight, going through it in the moment was not easy. It was really hard and very dark, but again, that's it. Like, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and I will die on that hill. It is so true. And you must utilize and use your struggles and your personal endeavors to your own advantage. At the end of the day, make it, like, your strength. Make it the thing that is going to make you unique and a better person, if that makes sense. So I have curated a list of all the pros. If you're watching this and you're afraid of embarking yourself on this journey of recovery, I want to give you all of, my gains, the things that I've gained from my recovery. So number one, my feminine energy. I was extremely masculine. Like, everything had to be, like, done a certain way and be done at a certain time, extremely disciplined. And, but I lost touch with my feminine essence, with my feminine energy of doing things, not because it makes sense, not because it's like the most logical thing to do, but because it's just fun. That's, like, the overall essence of the feminine energy in my eyes. It's to be in the receiving mode and just doing things for the aesthetic, for the beauty, for, the sense of feeling good. So by recovering from anorexia, I've restructured, or I've built up my sense of femininity again. So that is one point here. Joy of living. Again, like, I stopped being so cynical and so negative about everything that was happening in the world. I started to notice the beauty in life and things and people. And it made me, just in general, more happy. It made me happier by stopping on, pouring my energy and my time into all the negative things that were happening in life, in the world. So that's number two. My joy of living came back. My confidence, trust, self-trust. Everything looks like, on a mental level, everything looks or seem to be, all your fears, they seem to be, like, more threatening than they actually are. Again, these are all only like illusions. So when you take risks and face your fears, you will inevitably gain more confidence within yourself. And if you really pour all of your energy and if you're really like committed to going all in through your fears, not over your fears, but through your fears and through your struggles, and when you really make the most out of it, like, it is inevitable you will achieve success within that field. And again, it will just prove to yourself that you can make anything work out for yourself. And this is going to build up your confidence, because again, confidence is self-trust. Confidence is, just showing and proving to yourself that you can make things happen and that you're worthy of being trusted. You can trust yourself for making things happen in your life. So this is number 3. Again, number 4, which is in link with the joy of living, gratitude. So I became a whole lot more grateful for all the positive things that were happening in my life. With the change of, things shifting in my life when, graduating from high school and trusting God, being grateful for God for giving you this life and, helping. Well, for me personally, I felt and I know that he helped me find my path, my personal path, and pave the road of the life that I wanted to live. So my gratitude really came back actually, from my recovery process. So gratitude towards God and life in general. Again, personality. I felt like I was finally back in touch with my personal, artistical and creative energy. It's something that I've mentioned in one of my previous videos, which is the one, how to rekindle your creative spirit. When I recovered, I finally found back the interest within the things that were not about veganism or health and things like that. But again, pour back my focus and energy into art and, putting back art and crafting into my personality. Do you know what I mean? My personality when I was anorexic, it was, health and veganism. That was my branding and my overall personality type. It was only that, and spirituality as well, personal development. But from all that, I lost my personality and this different, this aspect of me of being creative and artistical. So yeah, finding back things that were not associated with health and fitness and veganism felt extremely good. And I found the essence again of who I was. So personality, just my overall personality came back. And I was, I've always been very nice, kind, and warm. And when I became anorexic, this kind of faded away naturally and obviously. But when I recovered, it just came back. Because I was more confident within myself and more happy, and, all of my bodily and brain functions were functioning properly. So yeah, my personality is also something that has came back and something that I've gained back from my recovery process. The next one is actually the one that is most important to me till this day, and something that has really shifted, that has been the most like prominent effect of from my recovery. But the next one is proximity with people, and most specifically with the people in my life, my family. Like I mentioned, I have 2 sisters, and my younger sister and I, we have always been, when we were children, we were constantly fighting and arguing against each other. And I'm not gonna lie, when I was a child, and even during my teenage years, and even worse when I was like in my eating disorder phase, my younger sister and I, we were like the opposite of best friends. For me, she was like so annoying, and we were kind of enemies. We were constantly arguing and fighting against each other, and we were never getting along. Not like specifically from her end, but more so on my end. You know, I was the older sister. I thought she was annoying and all that, but my younger sister, she was like, she craved so much like my approval of her, and my attention and my love for her. And you know, how I don't want to be too emotional about it, but when I started to recover, my relationship with my younger sister and I became better. And for that, oh my God, like this is worth everything to me, like today. Because my younger sister and also my older sister, we're not only sisters from blood, but we're also like so close, best friends even. Like my sisters are the most important women in my life, and I love them so much. And from my recovering process, I grew closer, more specifically with my younger sister, and we became friends. And you know, this is the biggest gain from this recovery process for me, but it was to get closer and have this peaceful and loving relationship with my younger sister. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for having her in my life, and you know, having, you know, my older sister as well. But recovering from anorexia opened this door and this room for me to build my proximity and my overall close relationship with my younger sister. And you know, I love him so much. And I never thought I would say this one day, especially my 7-year-old self, but it is true. So gaining this friendship and this sisterhood with my younger sister and my sisters is worth like everything to me, and it is worth even like the treasures of this earth. So that is something as well, like proximity with people. It is a huge gain from recovering from anorexia or any type of eating disorder. Also humility. I was so like kind of putting myself on a pedestal of I'm becoming the best version of myself. I'm becoming smarter because I know all these things about science, and you know, I'm constantly grinding and educating myself, and I'm not wasting my time. And you know, I was really stucking up my nose and being like a real snobbish like woman when I was dealing with anorexia, because I thought I started to believe that I was becoming better than everyone else, and I was morally and physically and mentally and spiritually better than the rest of the world. You know, I was becoming the 1% of the 1%, you know, like all that jazz. So, and when I started to recover, then I realized that there was a lot of things that I didn't know, and I decided to, calm down my ego and really get down to a very basic kind of grounding level within myself and realize I'm only 18. You're 18 years old, like literally, kid. What do you think you know about life in the world? Seriously. Like, I came to this, this wall of kind of reality, of hitting this wall of reality of, I don't know anything about life. And there's this whole future and this whole life journey in front of me, and nothing has started. So might as well buckle up and put on your seatbelt, because you're in for a ride and for a long time. So yeah, humility has been a huge gain from recovering from anorexia. Patience as well. So patience and grace within myself. So I had to face my fears of, gaining weight and gaining back my period and not looking what I thought was most aesthetically pleasing to my eyes. And, I gained like almost 30 pounds of bodily weight from recovering from anorexia. And, at first it was scary, yes, but all the positive effects were so like, it was so good and comforting for me that all of the negative things, like the weight gain and, the kind of the fear of being perceived a certain way from my personal point of view or others' point of view, like, it didn't matter, because all the gains were, how can I say, like, the pros were more like gaining versus the losses, if that makes sense. So yeah, I mean, I've started to be patient and graceful towards my recovery process, and luckily enough, I didn't hate my body even more, but oppositely, I stopped focusing on my body and myself and my life in general, and I started to focus more on, the opportunities other than like, being perceived as beautiful or ugly. And, I started to pour my focus and my time and my energy into what really mattered to me, which was my education and relationships and yeah, like overall career and all that stuff. So I gained back the presence of this present moment, if that makes sense. So I gained back the sense of like being present and being intentional and, being patient in general. So, yes, like in the process of recovering, I did feel this a little bit of like sense, like loss of control, loss of a little bit of discipline. But I also lost, like, from my eating disorder, I lost, like, I stopped being so anxious and fearful towards myself and life and in general. So yeah, I hope this, just take it as your sign to really kind of my biggest, like, okay, no. My biggest advice to anyone who's trying to recover or who's considering recovering from an eating disorder, whether it's binge eating or orthorexia or anorexia, do it for yourself, okay? Like, I had the opportunity to recover for other people, my family and my friends, many, many times. And I didn't do it because, thank God I didn't do it, because I knew it wouldn't have been like, it wouldn't be like sustainable. Because I knew that if I would do it for my family and my friends for their approval, then, and not for myself and like not listening to my gut and my heart and my feeling because I knew I was not ready, then I would have done all of this for external validation and approval, but it wouldn't be like sustainable and everlasting. Because from a couple months to maybe a year, I would have gone back to my old patterns of, not liking what I would see in the mirror, or being dissatisfied because of the loss of control, and because I would put all of my attention and focus towards like approval of external validation, and therefore it would have brought me to, square one again, of wanting to, cause myself self-harm through an eating disorder. Anyway, so my point is, my advice to you is do it for yourself, okay? Do it because you are fed up with what your current life circumstances and situation is in this moment in your life, that you don't see like a bright or positive future from your actions right now. And that fear of not having the future that you want and that you desire is even more powerful than the fears that you're currently having right now, which is the fear of certain foods, which like the fears of gaining weight and maybe like looking a certain way for a certain time, because again, your body's going to recover in a certain way where you're going to gain more weight than normal because of all the harm that you've caused like upon your body and yourself. But eventually your body's going to start to trust you back again because of all the food and, energy and resources that you're giving to yourself. And then everything is going to start to recalibrate. So just like, again, don't demonize or fear the recovery process that, you think you're going to gain weight and, you're not going to be able to look back like quote unquote normal again, like when you were previously, or whatever, what have you. Just trust your body. You're going to go back to a normal bodily form, and you can still like get back to, eating healthier again. Do you know what I mean? Like, you are in control and you are in power of what you want your life to be like and to feel like, and how you perceive yourself. Just know that the sacrifices that you will make, it's not going to be everlasting. Do you know what I mean? Like, and the sacrifices that you're going to make are not necessarily negative, but they can be positive, because if you're like super skinny and skin and bones, you don't have any future if you keep on like these negative habits. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't have any future. If you don't have a body, if you don't have the energy to move your body and to have like the mental capacity of doing things, like, you're not going to survive in this life, in your life. You're not going to be able to, do the things that you want or you need to do in order to survive, to work, and, to provide for yourself, to be completely autonomous. And, so that thought personally was scary enough for me to make my current fears, my mediocre and stupid fears, like insignificant, and to make a change within my life. So anyways, again, do it for yourself. If you want to recover, make it for yourself. Make this decision, not for your mom, not for your father, not for your friends, your grandma, for your dog, or whatever. Like, this was not the formula that worked for me. So the only formula that worked out for me was to do it for myself. And again, I didn't feel, if you don't feel ready right now to recover, that's okay. But don't postpone it like for too far away. Just, you have to face the fact that you're going to have to face this demon and be like, okay, like, stop BSing yourself and what am I actually doing right now with my life? Like, is it really smart and mature? Are these decisions, like these everyday decisions, worthwhile and worthy for me? Are they actually like really rewarding and beneficial for me? And maybe that's it, like your family or your friends. Like, am I contributing to something good with my time and my energy? Or like, would it be better for me to invest it elsewhere? Like, anyways, so this video is really long. It's been long enough, so I don't want to, you know, eternalize this video for more than it is. So anyways, I am feeling very hungry right now. So I'm gonna go eat. I'm gonna finish this video, but let me know if you want like a clearer version of this episode, my recovery process, because everything has been very kind of up and down and unclear, like for my personal opinion right now. So let me know if you would like a clearer video or a part 2, answering if you have any questions or things that you would like to share your story. Again, like feel free to let me know what you thought of this video. Any positive or negative feedback is a good feedback for me. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. You found it helpful and comforting to a certain extent. And again, like my heart and my energy and my love and my support goes out to anyone who's going through this phase right now. Like, as a person who has gone through what you're going through or what you have been going through, and you know, my intention and my wish for you is to really make the best out of it. Make the best out of this life lesson and make it a gain, like a gaining experience, and not like as a loss. So yeah, thank you very much for listening and for watching this video. Just a quick kind of maybe quick update before leaving you guys. So like I mentioned, something that I want to bring out to your attention, because I'm extremely self-conscious and aware of this, but I'm just so sick and tired of wearing these retainers, because every time I talk, like it's so like limiting in my mouth, like the articulation process and just being more like natural and flowing. It is so hard for me to articulate correctly, and because of the retainers. So this is going to be gone on Tuesday, September 30th. I'm finally going to put on like my real fake teeth here, and I'm not going to wear those retainers anymore, because these are massive in your mouth. Like in my mouth, at least, like my tongue doesn't have the capacity and like the space to articulate like a normal person. So this will be gone, and I'm so happy and excited about this process. And you know, finally I'm going to be free, you know, to communicate and to articulate like as a normal person. So just bear with me. It's going to be gone soon. I promise. My videos will be much better to film and to communicate. You know, my messages will be much more better, I promise. And yeah, so thank you so much again, and I hope you will have a beautiful rest of your day or evening wherever you're watching this video, and I hope you will have an amazing weekend, and I will see you guys actually next week, next Friday. So yeah, take care. Bye bye.